Small workspaces can actually have some virtues. You gotta have systems in place that allow you to maximize your use of the small space. This video is a comparison of different kinds of folding work tables. It's not a product promotion, but I do have links down below if you're interested in any of the tables I talk about in this video. The 5 I'm comparing are, first of all, the black+decker Workmate, and I've got 2 different kinds of the Workmate. Also the Kreg Mobile Project Center. This one's been out for a few years now and has had quite a lot of buzz online. Also the Keter Folding Workbench, which is a new one for me. And then to keep things basic, I'm going to say a few things about this non-folding small table that I use all the time, and this pair of DIY stacking sawhorses. All right, so let's start out with these 2 black+decker Workmates. They were originally my stepfather, so I don't have the exact year on them, but I can tell you that the first Workmate was developed in the 1960s and looked kind of like the original. Then black+decker started putting them out in the early 70s.
I was asked to talk about the incredible black+decker Workmate. There's almost nothing it can't hold.
And you can still buy them on Amazon today. Now the hallmark of these old school tables has got to be that clamping top. And I use the clamping action actually to hang the tables on a strip of wood that I've got screwed to the wall. Now these are big, heavy, kind of beefy workstations, and there's no getting around that. That's really how these guys feel and how they work in the shop. Mine are beat up, I haven't maintained them all that well, and they still work as well as they ever did. Now, I'm not saying that they're perfect, even though I do like these Workmates. The folding feet are kind of cumbersome to fold in and out, and they sometimes don't fold all the way. And that clamping top is kind of weird, like you clamp it on each side and sometimes it gets out of whack, so it's a little bit awkward. I often find myself needing to find the little latches that free the fold up top itself, and that's kind of annoying. Also, different latches release the top when it's in the up position, and those are also just a little bit hard to find, but once you get working with it, it's not too bad. Note that this is called a project center, as a lot of these things are named, and it can be used in a mode where it's not folded up. So you just put it on another table or workbench or even on the floor, and it can be used that way. That's because it has these little rubber feet that it can rest on in the unfolded up mode. Like most of these workstations, the Workmate is going to wiggle around on you if you saw like heavily on it or use a plane or something like that. That's just the price you pay for portability, and it's true with all the things I'll talk about in this video. Now the Workmate also has holes in the top to accommodate bench dogs. I think a lot of people don't realize that. That's kind of an old school feature of the Workmate. These are common on larger workbenches, like fine woodworking workbenches, and bench dogs allow you to push your work up against them to create some kind of leverage. Alright, so if you get 2 Workmates together, they can support big stuff like a door or a full-size sheet of plywood, and they can even be like yoked together via their clamping tops. There's a little sticker on one of my Workmates that says that the Workmate should not be used as a step, but I gotta say that I use it as a step all the time. It has a very step looking thing down on the bottom. So anyway, that's the Workmate. It's kind of an old school classic. It's made of wood and metal, and you can find them on Amazon today and elsewhere. But personally, I kind of imagine that at some point they're not going to be around, as black+decker is not really like the top name in tools these days. Alright, so next up is the much more contemporary, cutting-edge Kreg Mobile Project Center. And Kreg is the company that most of us know because they make a really kind of cool pocket hole jig system. But they also make a lot of other things, including full-blown workbench bodies. And this folding work table is from Kreg. And this one is more on like an A-frame design. So it flips open on the bottom, and then the 2 plastic wings like fold up to form the tabletop. It has a few things in common with the Workmate, like the holes in the work surface, which are also for bench dogs. But with Kreg, you get pretty cool bench dogs. The bench dogs are cool because they have little rubber bumpers on top of them, and that gives them traction if you set something on top of them, like a drawer you're working on, or like a birdhouse or something like that. In this case, I've been tuning up some polycarbonate light bodies, and when you set them down on the bench dogs, they just don't slide around because of that rubberized surface. This Kreg table is kind of like the Swiss Army knife of work tables. It has a ton of features. Here are a few of them. It has this slot running down the middle, and the slot does two things, and it accommodates a 2x4 or a 2x6 if you wanted to. If you add these two plastic screws, they're kind of like screw mounts, and they're a little bit flimsy, but anyway, you screw these mounts into your 2x4, and then the 2x4 can slide down that rail, and it's kind of nice. It means that you transform a somewhat delicate work table into something a lot more burly and tough, because now it's got that 2x4 runner on top. The rail, that slot in the aluminum rail, also accommodates what is perhaps the most prominent feature of the table. It's kind of the thing that makes it stand out, and the reason I thought it was kind of a cool thing, and that is this funky face down clamp. And I actually use this clamp to hang the table in my shop. Anyway, the face down clamp slides down that middle rail, and this is an adjustable clamp, which you can make tighter or looser, and it puts nice downward pressure on your workpiece. Anyway, alone, the clamp doesn't really hold things down all that perfectly, just doesn't have enough leverage. But in tandem with some bench dogs, you get your workpiece really locked down to the surface of the work table. So it's nice. It's a nice feature. A few more features: you can store screws or whatever in these little tabletop recesses. That's kind of cool. Another feature is that there are these brackets on either end of the workbench, and they allow you to attach a 2x4 or a 2x6 or any other 2x-dimensional lumber, meaning that you could hook two or more of these project centers together. There's also this X-wing connector gizmo, which pops out of the top of the table, slides back in these slots, and would allow you to lock multiple tabletops together tightly. I don't have multiple Kreg Project Center tabletops because they cost $160 each. Now, I have to say that when I first got this Kreg folder, I posted a kind of negative review of the table, noting a few of these quirks, and I'm just going to say them right now. First, I think the table is a little bit flimsy, and kind of wiggly and plasticky. I just don't really like that. Second, the design itself seems a little sloppy to me for $169. That's because it's easy to reach down and pick it up by the tabletop itself, and then it flips open on you. And this continually happened to me when I first got the table. To pick it up the right way, you need pretty long arms. You got to reach all the way down to the handhole, and then you get a more solid grip, but that's a little bit hard to get to. There's also the problem of a nasty pinch point up at the top. The folders themselves, when they lift, can just really pinch you, like seriously pinch you. So anyway, I keep my Kreg table itself folded closed because it'll flop open on its own. I keep it closed using a bungee cord. I would expect more for $160, and I'd expect more from Kreg. These are like the precision hole jig guys. So anyway, I think it's got some quirks. I've said that before here on YouTube. Aside from those complaints, this is a really nice table. You could use this thing as a kitchen table. Like, I'm not kidding. It's so nice. And I think that really particular style, like that clean style, it sort of encourages careful, precise work. All right, so next up is this much newer to me Keter work table. And I got this one on Amazon, I think for $69. And it's one of the many cheapo work tables you can see on Amazon. There are some other ones. Now, first off, with this Keter, it opens completely different than the others. You release two clips on either side. You kind of grab those with your hands, and then the legs fold down. It's kind of like a card table that's like beefed up on steroids. But the thing is, you're not done folding it yet. You still got to pop out these plastic crate-esque sides. Then you grab what was the plastic handle and kind of fold it up into the middle until you hear a snugging pop. And then this little yellow indicator tells you that you're in good shape, you're done, the table is locked in place. So yeah, the table has a lot of moving parts and is kind of plasticky. I don't know how long it's gonna last. Like I said, I just got this thing, I've had it like maybe a month. But when it's all put together, it actually feels really solid. Like beefy. It's actually the most solid of all of these tables It must be something about the geometry of the legs and that lower support holding them in. It also is kind of low, and it just feels really good. It doesn't wiggle. It's also super cheap, which I like. I mentioned it's like 69 bucks on Amazon. And I bought it because I wanted a small work table for the shop, but also one that I could take out on jobs and wasn't impossible to carry. This thing is like carrying a little briefcase. Like, it's just no big deal. Now, it only really has one feature in addition to being a table. And this is the one thing that could be called a feature, and it has to do with these yellow slots on the surface. And the clamps that come with the table, these particular clamps, they stow down below the table. You pop them out and they sort of fit into the slots on the top. You can see in this picture how the clamps are supposed to be used. That looks pretty good. I didn't actually figure that out until I made this video. I've been using the clamps kind of like this, kind of sticking out from the tabletop, and they work both ways. I find the clamps themselves much less smooth and intuitive to use than the ones I'm used to, and I haven't really gotten into the whole clamping feature of the table, but you might like it. What I do like about the table is that it's solid. It can accommodate my chop saw and other tools, and it's light and easy to carry around. This table kind of does the least of all the workbenches I've been talking about, and in some ways that's sort of its virtue. It's just pretty simple and solid. I want to end by quickly discussing a few more mini work table options that I use in my small shop. One is simply a small table like this one. It's not a collapsible table and it doesn't transform or fold or clamp or anything like that. But it also doesn't take up too much room, and this one has been really useful to me. I've had my drill press on this table. I've used it for all kinds of painting jobs like this one. And then I want to mention the value of a pair of stacking sawhorses if you've got room for them. Now, my set is almost always left out in the rain and the snow, and when they die, and I know they will die someday, I know that I can always replace them. They might not collapse down and fold nicely so I can hang them on the wall, but the cool thing about sawhorses like this is that you can beat on them, drill on them, cut on them, weld on them, and never really have to worry about it. I also get a ton of use out of this folding saw stand, which is really a topic for another video because it isn't a table of any kind, but I wanted to mention it here just because it takes up very little room and is really awesome for cutting long pieces of lumber because it supports both ends. Alright, so thanks for checking out this comparison of folding collapsible work tables. For me, they're just indispensable since I have such a small shop. I can pull them out, use them, put them in the truck, take them with me, and then I can also store them away and sort of forget about them till I need them. Now, if I had to choose just one of these foldable work tables, what would it be? I'm really attached to the Workmates just because, you know, they're old, I've had them a long time. But I've got to say, and this probably came across in the video, I kind of like this cheapo collapsible plastic table. It's solid, it's only 68 bucks or something like that, and it ends up being a pretty solid workspace. I don't do a whole lot of fine projects, you know, I do a few, but usually I'm cutting wood, screwing together, making, you know, cabinets and furniture and things like that. So I like that table workspace. It's also light and easy to carry. It's a little bit crude and it's plastic, but I kind of like it. Anyway, thanks for checking out the video. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I'm Meta Spencer here. I've got my hat out over on Patreon and also on Facebook and Instagram. You can find me anywhere as Meta Spencer. And if you got comments, leave them down below. I will respond. I'm really interested to know what you think about your portable work tables, and maybe you've tried some others that I haven't. All right, see you in the next project.